Hey everybody, welcome to Airsoftology Mondays, the show that answers your questions, helps you out in a pinch, and also has some new digs. It's a little bare in here, but fear not, next week the patch wall is going to be up for you guys. Right now I got some life decorations or something up here, so it's going to be more like home with the patch wall. And since I've been bumping into you guys, been doing some collecting some patches, your team patches and field patches, and they're going to end up on the wall as well. Also, I need to put a little sound deadening. It's a little echoey in here in my opinion, but we'll round it all out. I appreciate you guys dealing with the fun stuff here as we go on. By the way, I'm your host, Jonathan Higgs, and the tour has been going great. Thank you so much for the fantastic time I've had along the way. In fact, I got my cheat sheet. I'm gonna tell you guys where I'm gonna be. Where I have been though is Airsoft Alpha, went to Oppenheimer, went to Reaper Airsoft, and also went to the War Store in Buffalo area, and then also to cap it out, just finished up Buffalo Battleground, playing with all you guys out there in that amazing field. It was so much fun. Now, next week I'll be heading to Airsoft Special Ops and then going to Extreme Airsoft in FUBAR, and that is over in, all three of those are in Massachusetts in various parts, and then moving to Extreme Airsoft Rhode Island on Thursday night for a little bit of gameplay with you guys and hanging out. Ricochet Airsoft, and then we're gonna be moving to Hotspot and Strike Force on Saturday. So that's gonna be the full thing, and those are in Long Island. With Sunday, again, a lot of stuff going on, Striker and Totowa Airsoft. So that's gonna be it all the way through to next Monday. It's going to be crazy. And if you guys are looking for Monday, if I get to show up a little late, Patriot Armory is on the Monday list. So, whew, got all that out of the way. Also, guys, don't forget, before I get into the questions, remember, questions that you guys want to have answered, put them down there in the comment section below. Vote up your favorites, and I'll get them on the show. And thank you for being so cool as I get everything hammered out in last week's a little bit longer questions. And if you guys don't notice, I cut the long ones out typically when I do shows, but last week's kind of lost episodes. This one, we're back into your fresh questions from last week and this week's video, and let's dive right on in. Willem Kattenberg writes, when my gas bottle is almost empty, will my FPS drop compared to filling my mags with a full gas can? Does this also cause any problems with gas blowback pistols? So yes, like with anything, it has a certain amount of volume in it. We're talking about green gas cans here, or propane cans work the same way. As you start to drain it, you will, at a point, start to get a little bit lower FPS because inside there's liquid, the liquid turns to gas, and that gas kind of lives at a certain pounds per square inch depending on the outside temperature. Normally for green gas or propane at normal outside temp in the US, you know, Fahrenheit, about 70, 75 degrees, you're gonna see about 110, 115 pounds per square inch on that gas. But as it does kind of whittle down and there's less liquid to fill that volume, there's more volume to fill, then you are going to be dealing with less liquid in the can, less liquid to get into your mag, and you are going to see some FPS drop. But normally it's toward the end and not toward the beginning. But yeah, you will see a little bit of degradation over time. Diego Gonzalez writes, can I get a great uniform and gear setup for a low price? Absolutely. You have to do a little bit of digging, but it's not that hard. If you guys have a local surplus shop in your town or around your area, it's a great place to start to get a good uniform set up and not have to spend a whole lot of money on it. In fact, that's what I did for years, was just go to surplus shops, and I still do for a lot of events, especially if I have to get a specific uniform. I don't want to spend a ton of money on some fancy combat, uniform loadout. I'll run, hit the surplus shop, spend 15, 20 bucks or whatever, and pick up what I need. That's a great way to do it. Another great way is to look online at some kind of like surplus outfitter type shops. Sportsman's Guide is a great one in the US, and they have a lot of surplus items you can dig through. In fact, you can find some really great stuff. I found some like Cry all-weather G3 pants there for like 60 bucks. So you can get some really killer deals, and they were brand new too, still in the bag. So yeah, those are some good ways to get some great gear for a low price. Trey Bird writes, does ACU Camo work well in the Southeast US? So by ACU, you probably mean UCP, which is Universal Camo Pattern, which is kind of that gray digital that the military used up until just recently when they switched over to that multicam type pattern, which is actually called OCP. It's really easy to get the two confused because a lot of people call it ACU because that's actually the style of the uniform, the cut that came out at the same time. So looking at UCP as a camo pattern, it really doesn't work well much anywhere unless you're in an urban environment. It really does actually a pretty darn good job if you're dealing with a lot of rocks, like gravel, like granite gravel, so like the real tan stuff, or working a lot of cinder block building areas. It seems to do okay in those areas. Outside of that, I probably wouldn't use it unless you're going for a specific look, like you're going for a loadout or an impression. It just doesn't work that well. Now, is it better than nothing? At times, but it's a bit on the light side. And in the Southeast, where I'm originally from, it can be a little darker, a little more vegetation, especially in the summertime, and that's gonna probably give you away. It's gonna be a little bit too light. In the wintertime, however, we get a little snow on the ground, it might actually work really well, and the leaves are out of the trees too, so everything's a little more gray and a little more kind of flat colors. So you could try it for that, but for the summertime or spring, fall, anytime where it's really green out, I'd probably just pass and look at good old-fashioned woodland or multicam. Daily Cake Slice writes, I'm thinking about getting a CO2 gas blowback pistol. What's everything I need to know about them before buying one? Are there any standard magazines or standard parts like what AGM4 M16s have? Unfortunately, with gas blowback pistols, the parts and the compatibility in between them is really kind of limited based on manufacturers. So different manufacturers have their own parts they use in their own builds. One of the few exceptions is WE and Marui. WE did kind of clone the Marui system, so a lot of times you can get interchangeable slides, magazines, and things like that. Most of them will fit, especially like the magazines, just fine. A few things you may have to do a little bit of modification, but for the most part, they're pretty standard between those two brands. Now, outside of that, probably not. Specifically when you're talking about CO2 gas blowback pistols, they're pretty small kind of a lineup of pistols in that area. So if you want one that's really like more widely available, I would probably say definitely look at the Elite Force 1911A1 TAC or something similar to it. It's actually made by a company called KWC, and you can find a lot of pistols from different manufacturers that are made by them, like the 1911. So for example, Red Wolf's, the actual the Red Wolf Covert that they're actually doing with Nighthawk Customs is the same manufacturer. So the mags are compatible and things like that. Another reason I drive you toward the KFC, or KFC, not KFC, KFC's a Kentucky Fried Chicken, KSC brand is if you look around, Elite Force has just come out with, and you're probably going to see these in your shops here soon, with rebuild kits for the magazines, for the guns, and everything. So you can get all the parts you need to rebuild that pistol. So even if you don't end up picking up an Elite Force 1, you get another KWC brand 1911, which is a CO2 gas blowback pistol. You'll be able to get those rebuild kits down the road when you start to have those parts wear out or things break on you. LCD writes, hey Jonathan, how many BBs would you say you use in a MILSIM event a day? Well, this is a good one because I just got back from Operation Irene. To give you an idea of how many I used there, I think I maybe went through, and I do shoot full auto at these games. So Operation Irene, let me say that it is full auto capable, so I use full auto as suppressive fire. I think I maybe went through an entire day of play, like 2 full evolutions, like 8 hours, maybe 2,000 rounds, and that's probably pushing it. I think I went through my entire magazine loadout and actually did some reload and kind of went through half. So yeah, I'd say maybe 2,000, maybe 2,200 rounds is about where I was for a full day of MILSIM play. And that's kind of heavy. I find even in American MILSIM games, when I use just semi-auto, I've gone days where it's been 1,000, 1,200. I've even gone somewhere it's been 800 rounds. Just really making those shots count, especially playing the rifleman role. Now you move into a support weapon role like SAW, game changes at that point. I mean, your job is to keep heads down, so you're talking thousands of rounds. I mean, you're gonna be reloading that thing whenever you have the opportunity to do so. But for me, playing a rifleman role, and especially like at Irene where I played a medic role, where I'm running around a bunch medicing people more than doing some shooting, then yeah, I'd say about a couple thousand is a good number to last me throughout a full day. Well guys, that's it for questions this week, which means it's time for your Code Red Headsets video recommendation of the week. And this one is from a guy called Miko, and it's called Tier 1. It's a great little short film, and it has a ton of action involved in it. Really well produced. I love these short films that people are using out there and really putting their creative juices into and building something that's really neat and fun to watch. Definitely check it out. It's a really great film to watch if you're into some action, some tense moments and things like that. And I have a link over to the video in the description below. Well guys, that's it for the show this week. Thank you so much for kind of dealing with my very Spartan and sparse studio here, the new one. Still getting it all set up, took a while to get the lighting and everything done, but the patch wall's coming. As I meet you guys, I'd love to get a hold of some of your team patches and put them on that patch wall so I can show them off on Mondays. I really want to kind of get more interactive with you guys, especially since doing this tour. And if you're in one of those places I mentioned earlier in the show, and definitely keep your eyes out. Also beyond that, I still am heading on, so you'll see me down in North and South Carolina and a few other places down there. I'll be announcing all that next week. And then, like I said at the beginning of the show, if you want to get your question on, put it down below, vote up your favorites. And by the way, I really do, and I say this almost every week, I love the community down there. I can't answer every question. You guys put some fantastic ones. I mean, most shows have like 400 or 500 or 600 or more questions down there. And I love that you do help each other out, and it's so great that you give really good information down there in the comments section, especially when I can't get to really answer every single one. Well guys, I enjoyed our time, and if you're in those areas, I'll see you next week and we'll get to go sling some BBs together. But until then, go out, play some airsoft, have some fun, but no matter what you do, call your freaking hits.